Sarah, what up, E?
What's going on? Man, those are some nice medals.
Yeah, man, these are hard to come by.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them.
Well, that's nothing like going to March Madness, though.
We did go to a national championship.
Okay, guys, whatever. Let's just get on the Montana party bus and head over to Press Box for lunch.
Yeah.
Nuanez now and Skyline Sports, covering Montana athletics and the Big Sky Conference better than anybody. The Montana Party Bus and the Press Box are also proud supporters of Montana athletes.
Hey, cheers to you guys, man. Cheers to Montana. Cheers to
Join DraftWorks' annual Crappy Halloween costume contest on October 31st at 5 p.m. Enjoy a free pint for rocking a killer costume and stick around for the 9 p.m. Best Dressed prize. Spooky fun, great drinks, and plenty of laughs guaranteed at DraftWorks.
I feel like I'm on Sports Center or something. We got the tickers, we got the nameplates. Usually we do this on Zoom, but messing around with a little StreamYard here today. So Samuel Akem joining us here on the Big Sky Breakdown. What's up, man? Good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Good to see you too, man. It's a big week. Another big week. My goodness.
It's another big week, man. So let's break down just the overall dynamic of this first, because I think it's really interesting that Montana State came to Missoula and won, and they host on Saturday. And yet it feels like the Grizz have all the momentum coming into this game. I think part of that's because the Grizz destroyed their 2 playoff opponents, whereas Montana State, the Yale game was just a weird game. Yeah, I thought Yale was pretty good.
A lot of ball control with Yale, not a lot of possessions for Montana State.
Made some mistakes. You know, here's the thing: the Cats, they need their quarterback to be incredibly efficient for their offense to just be functional. The good news for them is that Justin Lamson has been incredibly efficient in basically 12 of their 14 games. But the 2 games where he hasn't been sharp, they've looked very pedestrian on offense. And those are the games against Mercyhurst and Yale. But then Lamson played great this last week, so he bounced back from it. It's just interesting because it seems like Montana State endured the last 2 weeks of the playoffs, whereas Montana slammed on the gas pedal and basically just ripped the faces off of 2 Missouri Valley teams. So what do you think of just that dynamic and how much momentum the Grizz take into Bozeman?
Well, I would say the brawl is probably the reason why both teams have looked the way they looked. You know, the Grizz took the loss, so they have a point to prove, and they have a reason to get back to this game. For the Cats, they've now, 12-2, so they've now won 12 straight games. You should see, for a lot of teams in the Cats position, you do start to see a lull later in the season. You know, I would say, especially in the first or second or quarterfinals of the playoffs, you know, their first couple of games, they got that bye week. They won a big emotional game against the Grizz on the road. You know, I think in that Yale game, it's to be expected to kind of see a little lull in that game. But then, like you said, they did bounce back a little bit better in the Stephen F. Austin game. But I agree with you. You know, the Grizz are playing their best ball right now. They've looked absolutely phenomenal. They have charged into this playoff push, and they've looked exactly how people thought they could look throughout the season. You know, the conversation was always like the offense is really good, but they don't always show up. The defense can make things happen, but they don't always show up. Obviously, they're still giving up the passing yards, but I mean, from a just sheer domination perspective, this team has been playing phenomenal.
That part is. I think it points to exactly the way that Bobby Houck wanted to manage this season, because there's some very tried and true trends within the scope of the Grizz season. The first half of the year, they were playing a ton of guys, and they were sort of in these back and forth battles, and they were trying to pull it out at the end, and they were able to pull it out at the end. They did that against North Dakota. They did it against Cal Poly. They did it against Idaho State. And then the midpoint came, and that Sacred Heart game, it was very clear that they said, okay, let's just first round KO these guys. Let's get up 22-0 as fast as we possibly can, and then we'll just take it easy, not have anybody get hurt, et cetera, et cetera.
And they took the gas off more than most people would do, because they get up like 40 with their starters in, and then they're going to take – Montana gets up by like 3 scores, like, all right, take the starters out.
It was almost like Bobby Houck knew that the other team couldn't score 22 points. Like 22 is the magic number. If you get to 22, the other team's going to score somewhere between 17 and 21. So you won the game, and it doesn't matter what the margin of victory is, because then they did that exact same thing against Weber State. Yeah. And it wasn't until the Sac State game where they really took the gloves off, and I think part of that was just because Sac State poked the bear. But then they kind of went back into not survival mode, but management mode. But now that since the rivalry
and brawl mode, I'd say brawl mode. Those last couple of weeks for both teams, I would say, is like brawl mode for both of them. They're trying to save all the good stuff. They're not trying to show too much. They're trying to get ready, stay healthy, all that stuff.
Yeah, totally. Well, and you and I talked about this too. one of the biggest differences between Montana and Montana State is that Montana, and this has actually changed a little bit the last couple of weeks because the offensive line's been playing better for Montana.
Mhm.
But Montana had to scheme stuff up to get to long scoring drives, whereas
Yeah.
Montana State could just run their offense. So
Yeah.
even when you're just, trying to take it easy and get out of there with no injuries, you can just run inside and outside zone with Julius Davis and Adam Jones, and you're still going to manufacture yards and get touchdowns. Whereas Montana, they need to do a little bit more stuff, especially in the passing game with Michael Wortham and Brooks Davis and stuff like that. So when maybe they had these lulls in the offensive explosiveness, part of that's just by design. Part of that's just like a side effect of their offense.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, definitely a facet. Montana, like you said, Montana State can just run their base stuff and they are going to be successful. That's why they have been so successful, because they can run inside zone, outside zone. That's their key. They run the ball. And if you got the offensive line, if you got the inside zone, outside zone, whatever they're running, it's going to be successful. The RPO game attached with it, but none of that stuff is like outside of the scope of what they normally do. For Montana, like you said, yeah, they got to scheme it up a little bit because they're a little bit more creative on offense and they do have more bells and whistles that come with it. But yeah, I mean, hey, it's an exciting time in Montana, in the state of Montana. Super exciting.
Well, it's almost like the rivalry loss pissed Montana off. And they've been just kind of taking it out the last 2 weeks. Whereas Montana State has just been they're in the management mode now. Get through these two so you can be all the way loaded up again. Montana State's gotten really banged up. They were not banged up at all during the season. That was one of their keys to success. They had no injuries on defense. They were playing 20 guys that were their main 20 guys from the very beginning of the year. But then starting in the Grizz game, they started going down. J.J. Dolan broke his leg. So there's one of their nickel/safety guys that was out. This last week, Taden Gray got knocked out, it looked like to me. So I don't know if he's
Paul
playing around this week. But that's two nickels that you're down that are both those guys are good players. Paul Brotzman had a busted ankle for it seems like a month and a half now.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get better until he takes it easy, but he's just not going to take it easy. So he's
a senior. His last year. It's the last go, man. You got to let it all hang out.
He's got to do it, right? So, but the Grizz have been pretty healthy too. Bobby Houck talked about how they're really banged up on Monday in the press conference, but I think that was him being coy because they look pretty good to me. I mean, I know Harper's dealing with. I think Micah Harper. I think he's probably just has a
he's
old
dealing
man
with a
back.
shoulder or something.
It's something, but a lot of times he's stretching his back. I think it's just like I think it's a side effect of the fact that he's had multiple knee injuries and he's just old. Like I think he just gets back spasms a little bit.
Tolbert's still a little gimpy.
But Keon Loud's back at corner on offense.
Beener was back last week too, so it's crazy for him to say that.
Beener was back on. Yep. Ayat's a little gimpy with the knee brace, but other than that, I mean, Montana.
Gilman's probably more beat up than we think too.
Well,
we're so proud to have played for Montana State.
It wouldn't be where we are today without this program.
Now it's our turn to give back. Bobcat Collective is making a real difference for current and future athletes.
Montana State gave us a foundation to pursue our NFL dreams.
Join us in building something special because when we invest in our athletes, we invest in the future of Bobcat football. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Join the collective today. Go Cats.
Shine Beer Sanctuary is leading the charge when it comes to promoting beer culture in Montana. Located at the corner of Church and Main and downtown Bozeman, the locally owned and operated tap house and bottle shop has the best beer selection in the Treasure State. The bar has 32 rotating beers on tap with everything from Duvel to local ciders, gluten-free beers, and non-alcoholic options. The bottle shop has more than 400 beer offerings from all over the world, and Shine offers Cicerone-trained beer guides. Come enjoy beer heaven at Shine Beer Sanctuary in Bozeman.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
And that's just inevitable, right? I mean, it's week 15. These guys got over 200 something carries, so I think that's just inevitable.
Yeah.
So the health is good coming into this game. Maybe Montana State banged up on a little bit of either side, but next question? What do you think is the hardest part about playing in Bozeman? Because that was sort of the prize for the brawl, right? You get the trophy, you get the Big Sky, but the more impactful thing was you got to play the semifinal game at home. If in fact these two teams ended up on the same side of the bracket, they did. How big do you think of an advantage is that on Saturday? Or is it? Do you think Montana is maybe thinking it's not as big of an advantage since the road team won this last time?
No, I think it's a colossal advantage for the Cats. I think it's the biggest advantage in this game. If you've ever been in that visiting locker room at Montana State, it sucks, and anybody and their fans would agree with it. They've been in there. It's terrible. There's seats, barely enough seats for the guys to fit in there. I mean, it's tiny. It's going to be packed with Cats fans. You've seen how crazy it's been with the tickets right now, and I think the biggest advantage that the Cats have in a game like this, with having home field advantage over the Grizz in particular, is because think about the Grizz this season, Colter. What's the most hostile environment the Grizz have played in this year?
Idaho State, probably.
Sac State wasn't really like that. They got the track around the field, so it's not going to be that loud.
Right, and everybody was there for the concert. I don't think anybody was going crazy during the game.
So I'm interested to see how Montana deals with the noise, the offense, Ayat, because we have not seen them in this environment. And I think it's going to be very, very hostile. It's going to be very, very loud. And they haven't had to deal with this yet. They haven't had to play in an environment like this. So I think it's a huge advantage for Montana State. And a lot of people made a lot about Justin Lamson not playing in an environment like Missoula, for a game. Although he played in Autzen, they were down a lot. What about Ayat playing in an environment like this where he knows he's the starter coming into a game? He's a young guy. We haven't seen that yet. Obviously, he played South Dakota State last year. He played in places last year, but he's the full-time starter. He's the guy now. How does he perform?
Yeah, and South Dakota State draws some fans or whatever, but it is not, there is nothing that compare. I mean, the only schools that are even knocking on the door of comparing to the two Montana schools is North Dakota and North Dakota State because of those domes.
Yep.
But even then,
the
hierarchy is not even comparable. It's Washington Grizzly Stadium above all other stadiums, and it's not even close. And then it's Bobcat Stadium above every other stadium, and then it's also not even close. And then you have everybody else. So, and Ayat, has Ayat ever played in front of a big crowd? Because sure, he was playing in mop-up duty in that second round game against South Dakota State, but that was like the game was a foregone conclusion. They were down 35-7 when he got in the game, and again, it was a second round game. I think there was like 10,000 people there. I mean, there is going to be so many. Here's the part with the tickets. There's going to be as many people as they could fit in that stadium. The most in the history of the stadium, there's no question. I'd say probably 23,000. There's going to be another 10,000 people outside the stadium. Like there's going to be such a crazy crowd. And there's going to be, I actually bet you that there's thousands of Grizz fans that didn't get tickets that are going over there just to cause a mess, just to be unruly.
Just to see the spectacle.
Just to see the spectacle, no doubt. So, I mean, is that a concern, though, if you're Montana? Because Ayat has been phenomenal. Lights out great this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's also done it 10 home games and then, Idaho State and Weber. He's never seen anything like he's going to see on Saturday.
I don't know if I would call it concern, but it's definitely something that you should prepare him for. Those who I can't even think of the saying right now, but failure to prepare is preparing to fail, basically. And I think they need to get Ayat ready for the noise. Whether you think it's going to be a concern for him, whether you think he's going to struggle with it, whether you think any of that, you need to prepare for it. You need to have the right things in place this week that you're practicing within practice, where there's a lot of noise going on in practice, whatever that looks like. I think that needs to be done because you don't want to get caught with your pants down. I think it's important for the offensive line also to understand what the cadence sounds like within a lot of noise and things like that. Because that's, and I think they will, because Coach Houck, the way Coach Houck coaches, he has guys prepared. You will never see a Coach Houck team go into a game that isn't prepared. So whatever you're seeing on the field in terms of, say they're not playing well, say they came out and they didn't perform well, say whatever you want to say, they are prepared. And that is why Coach Houck has been so good in his coaching tenure is because guys are always prepared. No matter what the talent looks like, the process is the process. And Coach Saban talks about it all the time. Coach Belichick talks about it all the time. All the greats talk about it all the time. The process is the process. So I think if you follow the process in preparing Ayat, you can mitigate some of the risk. But I think it's impossible to say that they won't struggle. I think it just depends on how much they're able to play, how well they play. And what will it matter, the noise matter or not within that. But I think Montana needs to start really fast.
Okay, I want to go back and forth on things that each side did well. That then, how does the other side counter that? So, for example, we'll start with this. Michael Wortham's gone crazy so far in the playoffs. I just went and did the math. He's got 19 catches for 314 yards. He's also got almost 100 yards rushing. He scored 4 total touchdowns. Against the Cats, he was not a non-factor because he did have the 2 big runs, but he was a non-factor in the passing game. He only caught 1 pass for 3 yards.
And he was the part of that interception.
He was part of the interception. And that probably would have changed the complexion of the stat line big time because it's one of the craziest plays ever because not only did that ball go right to Caden Dowler and he housed it for a pick 6, if Wortham catches that, he's got a one-on-one against Cole Taylor. That's probably an 80-yard touchdown. So it's like a 14-point swing instead of just a 7-point swing in that moment. But what did the Montana State do well to take Wortham out of the game, and what does Montana need to do to get Wortham more touches?
I think just like what they did in the original brawl, Caden Dowler being over the top, playing like a shell coverage. He's like that second high safety that's going to sit over the top and make sure if Wortham does beat the linebacker, he's right there. But also, I think the linebackers did a pretty decent job of covering him. I mean, say what you want about that coverage. You can say it was hold. You can say whatever. That is a linebacker, Cole Taylor, covering the best receiver in Big Sky football. You know, so say what you want. He did the job. And I think they did a good job.
What Brett Egan said about Caden Dowler yesterday, too, is so true. He said, hey, we can keep saying right place, right time. But when the dude's got 7 picks and he's about to set the FCS record for return yards in a season, that's obviously a personality trait. He's not just right place, right time. He's there all the time because he knows where to be.
Yeah. So I think that coupled with, some of the schematic things of the Montana State defense, it just wasn't a game. And it happens like this. There's games like who would have expected Brooks Davis to go off in that game? Nobody, but he was the highest graded player per PFF in that great game. I just think it's a facet of their defense. Kind of just guys are going to have days. I think the plays were drawn up for Wortham, but I think also Montana State was keyed into that. Like, hey, Wortham's not going to be the guy to beat us, and I think that's kind of what we saw on Saturday. Eli Gilman's not going to be the guy to beat us. Under no circumstances is Eli Gilman going to be the reason why South Dakota loses this game. Okay. I present you Michael Wortham, 200 yards through the air, 25 return yards, 40 rushing yards, and he was the star of the game. So I think Montana State's defense did a good job just shutting him down, and Montana had to turn to Brooks Davis and Eli Gilman as well as Ayat's arm.
If you are the Cats, who do you put a priority on? Because you have to pick your poison, so to speak. Who's more important to take away? Gilman, Wortham, Davis, or the field, everybody else?
I think you got to take away Gilman, just because if the run game is super, super effective, it makes everything much more difficult for the Montana offense. I think I said that right. If the running game isn't effective, it makes things hard for Montana. But if the run game is effective, it makes everything easy for Montana. The run game is going to open up the play action pass. The run game is going to open up RPO. The run game is going to open up the play action. The run game is going to open everything up. So from a Montana State standpoint, and same for Montana, both teams, you have to key in on stopping the run no matter who that running back is. But I don't think you can let Eli Gilman hurt you in this game. I think just like we saw, Wortham made big plays in the original brawl, but they weren't big enough to offset what the defense was being able to do. So I think you got to key in on stopping Eli Gilman, which is funny to say because we just saw that and Wortham went off. But I think you still do have to key in on Eli Gilman.
I think that's right because he's such a big play guy. That's the thing is Montana State did a pretty good job of bottling him up, and then he had the 52-yarder, and that really juiced his stats quite a bit in that game. If you're Montana, what do you need to adjust against Montana State's run game? Because I thought that was an undertold factor of the first matchup. Everybody talked about Lamson. Everybody talked about the takeaways. and the defensive touchdown and the blocked field goal. But Montana State also ran the ball with authority. Like, I thought my keys to the game were just in terms of broad scope outside of the matchups, because we knew Montana State was going to have these matchup advantages. Montana was going to have these matchup advantages. But I thought whoever got to 30 points first and whoever outrushed the other side, especially if Montana State could get over 250, that would be a huge key to victory. They got over 250. How do you shore that up if you're Montana? Because you were mentioning before we went on air just how good Montana's rush defense has been so far here in the playoffs.
Yep. So Montana's rush defense allowing 91.4 yards a game in 2 playoff games this playoff. That's phenomenal. That's tops out of the last 4 teams remaining in the bracket. What I would say as to what Montana should do is I think you got to go man. I think you got to play man across the board. You bet on Keon Loud. You bet on Kenzel Lawler. I'm seeing stats all over the internet. Keon Loud allowing one of the lowest completion percentages out of all cornerbacks with, I think it's over 120, 150 snaps. Micah Harper's been one of the highest graded. Kenzel Lawler's been one of the highest graded. Denzel Wilkinson, I don't know how good he is in coverage. TJ Roush has been pretty damn good in coverage as well. I think you go man. You leave an extra hat in the box. If that extra hat in the box is Denzel Wilkinson, whoever it is, you have to pack the box. You have to stop the run. You have to stop the run. Get them in those 3rd and long, 2nd and long situations that Montana State does not want to be in, and you bet on your cornerbacks. If they beat you, but I don't believe Chris Long's good. Taco Dollar's good. Dane Steele is good. How good are those guys defeating one-on-one man coverage? I don't think we've seen it a ton this year. They beat a lot of zone. They get open in the open windows, and then they're able to do a lot of things with the ball in their hands. But bet on your cornerbacks, and this is something I think they did really, really well in 2021. Basically, hey, we're going man. Justin Ford, you're going to follow Lance McCutcheon. Everybody else, you got your man. We're packing the box. See if you can beat us. And they won in dominant fashion. I think that's the same thing you do. Pack the box, play man-to-man, bet on your corners, and see if they can beat you.
That's what makes this so fun is Taco Dowler and Dane Steele and Chris Long have not seen a corner as good as Keon Loud. But Keon Loud's also not seen receivers as good as those guys. Because Keon Loud was out. There are a couple other receivers in the
BJ
league.
Fleming from North Dakota, maybe, but nobody on their level.
I think that Taco's better, man. And Dane Steele is nasty, man. I mean, Dane Steele is the dude that's impressed me the most out of any receiver in the state of Montana. So
I will say none of those guys are Ernest Campbell, who Montana did see. Gave up 200 yards to him.
True. But that's what I'm saying. Like, Campbell is really good, but Loud was out that game. And Shulikov and the other dude from Idaho State are both really good, but Loud was out that game. So it's just going to be interesting because, like, I don't know if we know. I think we think Loud can play man-to-man against the best of the best. I also think that those Montana State receivers can operate against man-to-man against the best of the best.
I know Taco can.
It's a huge matchup for me. On the other side, I thought one of the other key matchups coming into the last game was Montana State's young DBs handling the environment, handling the atmosphere, and all that, and matched up against Montana's wide receivers. I thought they did a good job, but the one guy who did get loose was Brooks Davis. So I would call that matchup a stalemate the first round. What do you think of that matchup coming into this rematch?
The corners versus the receivers of Montana? I would probably call it a stalemate too, because they made a ton of plays. I mean, it's impossible to say that they didn't make a ton of plays. One of the first plays of the game, I can't remember. I think it was Carson Williams came up and made a big play on one of them. But yeah, they made a ton of plays in that game. It would be a stalemate with what Brooks Davis did, counteracting what they did. Man, I think the short game, well, I don't know, because one thing that I saw Montana do in that second half of that game was they started really spamming the RPO, really the hitches, the quick outs, just the quick smoke screens. They were getting them into the receiver's hands really, really fast. And that's kind of what allowed them to move the ball so successfully in the second half. I don't know if Montana State is going to allow that, but with that, I think you have a much better opportunity for some double moves. Now, can you double move on an RPO? Not necessarily. That's what makes an RPO so lethal. But what you can do is get in a drop back. You've been throwing a lot of quick hitches, a lot of quick outs. If that's what's something Montana State is going to be keyed in on, which is something you're going to have to notice in the early part of the game, like, oh, hey, they're jumping these. We're going to have to get them with a double move. You try to hit them with the hitch and go. You try to hit them with the out and up. Because I think that's something that Montana State is going to be like, okay, what did they do well? What do we need to be better at? What they did well was they hit the short, quick game. They hit the quick game. They were hitting RPOs. So we need to play closer to the ball line of scrimmage. We need to kind of trigger on those a little sooner. And with that, you allow the double move. So I think I don't know. I think we could see a similar matchup. Like, I think it could end up being a net zero matchup in the game. There are big plays on each side, but nobody really is going to win that matchup. I think that's just where they are. Young receiver. Well, you say young receivers when thinking of Brooks Davis. You think of young DBs when you think of Montana State. I don't know if you think of young receivers outside of Brooks Davis. It's honestly probably like a more veteran group. Michael Wortham, a senior. Drew Deck, a senior.
1959, at Street's Grocery in Whitefish, Montana's special spice was born. Alpine Touch. It's the taste you grew up with, well seasoned through the test of time, as the tradition carries from one Montana generation to the next. From its humble beginnings to a trusted brand, here's to the next 60 years. Alpine Touch. Montana's special spice since 1959.
Cash One Pawn, Missoula's #1 pawn shop.
You want money? We got money. You need money? We got money. We're cash.
Do yourself a favor and make Cash One Pawn part of your online shopping habits. Cash One Pawn has an awesome online inventory, everything from firearms to power tools to speaker equipment to jewelry. Visit Cash One Pawn today.
Cash One Pawn.
8720 Roller Coaster Road, CashOnePawn.com.
Bohannon, a senior. So I don't know. I think that is going to end up being like a net zero matchup in the game.
Yeah, what a joy, the quality of corners that are existing in the state of Montana right now. Because that's usually like the part in the Big Sky where guys are just, because if you're a great corner, you just go into the highest level, man. And there's several of these young dudes. I think Loud at Montana. I think Carson Williams and Seth Johnson at Montana State. These dudes they're FBS caliber players. And
you know what? One thing I'm interested to see though. Remember how Seth Johnson and Carson Williams were talking a lot and those videos were going around on social media? Yes. I wonder how much Montana is using that as motivation coming into this game. They were stomping on the field.
What did you make of all that? Because I thought it was so funny. It's so interesting when one side or the other does it. And like when the Cats do it, the Cat fans think it's awesome and the Grizz fans hate it. Or if the Grizz do it, the Grizz fans think it's awesome and the Cat fans hate it. So many Grizz fans are saying, classless, these guys, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know, man. I just think if you win a game like that on your opponent's field, like the emotions that run out of you, I just don't really know if you can even control them, man. I thought it was fair game. Do you think it was fair or foul the way Montana State celebrated in Missoula?
I will say I have never seen Montana players do that. Personally, I never have. Maybe it's happened. I've never seen them stomp on the field and talk like that. So I'll say that. But my main point about that is, to the victors goes the spoils. If you don't want them to stomp on your field, if you don't want them to plant the flag on your field, if you don't want them talking shit to your fans, win the game. It's as simple as that for me. It's not too deep. You can say some of the things are classes, and I'm getting old. I'm getting a little old school guy. Like a little of the talking is a little too much for me. Like it's a little too much. But they are well within their right to do all of that. They won the game. It's the same flag planting the law in Ohio that they were gonna pass. No, don't plant a flag planting law. Plant or impose we need to win the game law. If you win the game, nobody's going to plant a flag anywhere. So that's my point about it. I don't think it was classless. It was a little childish, yeah, sure, but classless, not really.
Justin Lamson was a revelation against Montana the first time around. 18 for 20. 18 for 20, 175 yards. He also rushed for 100. He scored what amounted to being like the game-winning touchdown on that scramble. And then he orchestrated the last drive where Montana couldn't get off the field and Montana State salted away the last 7 minutes. He then sort of sputtered against Yale, but he looked way better against Stephen F. Austin this last week. How important is he? But also if you're the Grizz, how do you adjust? Because they did some stuff in the quarterback run game that they hadn't really done all year long. And I thought that was one thing maybe caught Montana off guard. And I thought it was a huge advantage for the Cats.
I think I've said this. I think Justin Lamson is the biggest key for Montana's defense. If you're the Montana defense, your number one key should be, how can we stop whatever Justin Lamson's going to do? I think whatever he's going to do with his arm, he's going to do. But with his legs, you cannot allow him to scramble. You cannot allow him to run. It's the same thing when Montana would play Tommy Mellott. It's like you have to limit his legs as much as you can, because say what you want about what he did with his arm. He was efficient. He was 18 for 20, really 19 for 21 was a drop from Dane Steele or Chris Long, whoever it was. But you have to stop his legs. You mentioned the game-winning touchdown, the essentially game-winning touchdown where he scrambled. Why did he scramble out on that play? They lost contain. Justin Lamson got out to the edge and he scored. You have to contain him. That should be, if I'm the Montana defensive line, I'm the defensive line coach, you have to contain. I don't care if you get the sack. We don't necessarily need sacks in this game. Sacks would be nice. I'm saying we because I'm talking as if I'm the Montana coach. But you don't necessarily need sacks in this game. You do need sacks, but that shouldn't be key number one. Keeping Justin Lamson in the pocket away from scrambling should be key number one. There are so many times, and I say this because there was one play late in the game on that last drive where they had the 7 minutes. Montana had the 3 timeouts and the 2-minute timeout. They didn't get a stop. There was a play on like 3rd and 9. Montana got them backed up. They had an opportunity to get off the field. Justin Lamson scrambles. Montana has Jake Mason spying Justin Lamson. That is a job for Peyton Wing. That is a job for Dezell Wilkinson. That is a job for one of your faster linebackers. I wouldn't even spy him with Elijah Tolbert right now because he's so injured. Lusky probably can't even spy Justin Lamson. Peyton Wing or a defensive back, and you don't really spy with defensive backs, so really Peyton Wing's your guy. But they got Jake Mason on him. It's a spy. They called the right play. They covered it well. Obviously, if he's scrambling, he's not able to find anybody downfield. He scrambles to the right and dives near the first down. Jake Mason's too slow. Jake Mason is on him. Nobody comes to block Jake Mason. He's on him. Justin Lamson is just too fast for that defensive lineman to cover him. And Justin Lamson makes it a 4th and 1. Next play, they scramble it, get the first down. And it's like, yo, that is just extremely detrimental. You get them in a 3rd and long situation. Next play, he scrambles for 8. It's a 4th and 1. They rush it up the middle with either Julius Davis or Adam Jones, and they get the first down. You cannot let plays like that happen. Plays like that will beat you because they did beat you. That play right there was what was going to get them off the field and get them the ball back with an opportunity with Ayat to drive down the field. They weren't in field goal position either. They were going to get the ball back with Ayat with a chance to tie or win the game, man. And they didn't because they couldn't stop Justin Lamson with his legs. He is the biggest key in this game. He will hurt you. He will beat you in this game, and they have to be keyed on that. That's the biggest key for me for the Montana defense. Biggest key.
What else will you be looking at in this matchup? Like, what other parts of the matchup are going to be keys for either side? Is there anything different than what we saw the first time? I keep thinking like the strengths and weaknesses of each of these teams has not changed that much in the last 2 weeks, even if the momentum that they're playing with has. But you also just have to imagine that both teams had some more ammo that they didn't use.
Yeah.
So, to me, like one thing I'm looking at is like Montana's been infinitely creative the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the onions to go to Bozeman and do that, right?
Like call the plays?
Do you have the guts to like run the inside slant lateral to Eli Gilman or the Statue of Liberty, or did you just do that because you're on your home field and you were already boat racing the team you were playing against? Like
Coach Pease has the onions. I guarantee you.
Will Bobby Houck let him do it? Is the
right. Let me just tell a story for people watching. Nobody wants to beat the Cats more than Coach Brent Pease. Our first day as Coach Pease, as our receivers coach, back when he was a receivers coach, Rosie was the offensive coordinator. Our first day, when they first got hired, he came in the room, turned on the 2017 Cat game. He had like 10 to 15 plays that he wanted to show. He ripped me, Keenan, Samori Toure, Jerry, Louis McGee, ripped us all a new one. Walked out, said balls deep, and said, go Grizz. But he was letting us know, hey, this is unacceptable. So if anybody has the onions to call the plays in this game, it's Coach Pease. The thing is I don't know if there's anything different that you can do. I think one thing, like I just mentioned, the Justin Lamson key is a big key for me in this game that I don't think they executed well in the first game. Man coverage, I think Montana running significantly more man defensively, I think is a big key. So obviously Eli Gilman is your bell cow. I feel like not running in between the tackles so much, trying to get it to the outside, trying to run sweeps, trying to run stretches, trying to run things that get outside the tackles, tosses, could be something that could work as well. The first play of the game, one of the first plays of the game, Michael Wortham got to the outside and it was a big 20, 30-yard run. I think if they can find ways like that to run the ball, that's a big key. For Montana State, I don't know if you're Montana State, I don't know if there's anything really you can do differently because they do what they do defensively. Like they are who they are on the defensive side of things. On offense, they are who they are. They're going to run the ball, play action, RPO is going to be a key, drop back pass. I mean, it really is what it is for both of these teams. So I don't know if there's much for Montana State that you can do differently in a game like this.
One thing I'm really interested in is we saw both these teams play at a high level for the first 11 weeks of the season, but then when they played each other for the first time, there was so much buildup that the level just went like it was like watching a whole different level of football. But the first quarter was so unbelievably physical, I couldn't even believe it.
So much chirpiness.
Like, this game has even bigger ramifications, and it's a national championship on the line, and it's going to be crazy off the chain in Bozeman. But I don't know if there's another level that you can get to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think there's another level. I think there's another level Ayat can get to. Because I thought Ayat was
operationally and like execution wise, yes. Like physicality, that was the most physical football game I've ever seen.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the conference.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's another level unless people like start dying on the field. I don't know if you can get to another level of physicality.
No, it was the most physical game we've seen this season. A lot of chirpiness. I mean, it matters. A lot of after the whistle things. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to beat the level of intensity that we saw, but I think if we do see that level of intensity, well, let me say this: if either team is lacking in that intensity on Saturday, it will show. It will show, because I think that's just where we're at. I just think that's where we're at. We're at the point where both teams are a week away from going to the national championship. If you aren't up for this game, if you aren't playing your best, most intense football at this point in the game, you're going to get beat. You're going to get beat.
The Grizz had a pretty defined offensive game plan to like press the edges, get the ball out quick. And Ayat was really good at that. A lot of crossing routes with Brooks Davis and Drew Deck. And they were trying to sort of put pressure on those corners. But also I thought they did that to mitigate the defensive line play of Montana State. I thought they thought, okay, we probably can't block these guys straight up one-on-one for 4 quarters. So let's just get the ball out quick when we can and get yards when we can, and let's let it roll. Montana's offensive line's played a lot better the last couple weeks. So do you not have to mitigate that matchup as much, or was that just a matter of the defensive lines Montana playing not being as good as what Montana State's going to bring on Saturday?
I don't know, man. I think that South Dakota State defensive line is pretty good.
And I thought the defensive tackles for South Dakota were good too. I thought 50 and 52 were both good. I thought Mo Newsome 52 was really good. I was one of the best DTs I've seen this year.
I thought the units were pretty good that they played, but I still agree. I think they need to find ways to get the ball out fast. I don't know. Like, I think Montana's offensive line, like you said, have been playing good football. But still, in the first 2 playoff games, we've noticed many runs where Eli Gilman gets the ball and he's turning it into what it's going to be himself. He's juking people out. He's making the things happen behind the line of scrimmage and all that stuff. So I don't know if I would say that the offensive line is better equipped at this point, but I think they can make some things happen. I think if the offensive line has a really good day, I think it's going to be a long day for the Cats. I'll say that. If Montana's offensive line decides to have their best game of the season, decides to play out of their mind, I think it'll be hard for Montana State to win this game.
Okay, last question. Montana State already has a win in the rivalry so far this year. That helped them play this game at home. Montana looking for revenge, but their only loss was to Montana State. Who has more pressure on them coming into this game? Like, who does it hurt more to lose? It's obviously going to hurt if you lose this game, no question. Who does it hurt more, though? Like, in terms of the overall narrative around their program, who has more to gain, who has more to lose in this game?
Oh, man. I initially was going to say the Cats because they have the Big Sky Championship. They have the Great Divide Trophy. They got the number 2 seed. They're at home. And I still lean that way. But you got to think about the fact of Coach Houck being 0-4 in the national championship game. Now, obviously, this isn't a national championship, but he might have the best opportunity to win a national championship that he's ever had if he wins this game. I mean, that is absolutely huge. And you cannot look past that. I mean, there's a ton of – I feel like there's a decent amount of pressure on Houck, but I don't think there's more pressure on Houck than there is on Vegan. I mean, we've seen Vegan get there multiple times. I think he had the better team last year in the national championship. They unfortunately didn't get it done. There were some decisions in that game that may have or may have not cost them in the game. I think not punting before halftime was a really, really costly penalty when you think about the fact that they lost that game. What was it, 38-35, Colter?
Life can change in an instant. If you've been hurt in an accident, suffered from medical negligence, or are facing criminal charges, you don't have to face it alone. At Ryan Miller & Coburn, we're here to listen and fight for you. We're your neighbors, traveling across Montana to stand by your side as your link to justice. Real people, real help, right here in Montana. Ryan Miller & Coburn, your Montana attorneys.
much for listening to our Big Sky Breakdown podcast series and for tuning into our Skyline Sports YouTube channel. If you have not, please rate, review, and subscribe. Particularly subscribe. Click on the subscribe button. That helps us out a ton. Thanks to our great partners who help make all of this content possible, including Ty Hobbs at Keller Williams Real Estate. Ty's a great friend of mine, guy I lift weights with in the mornings, and a guy I golf with as much as I can, but he's also an ace realtor. I did not choose him as my realtor because he's my friend, although that was a big perk. He is excellent when it comes to everything from efficiency to negotiation to no frills, no BS. He got our house on the market and got it sold in less than 24 hours, more like 4 hours. It was an impressive turnaround. He got us exactly the contract that we wanted. We needed to stay in our house for a couple months because we had a new build coming up. He negotiated that flawlessly. The negotiation part is the number one reason why we chose Ty, but he also has a great acumen when it comes to construction, building, remodels. We had a flood in our house that I needed help with repairing. Boom. He helped me out. Awesome service, awesome job. And if you're in the market for a realtor, Ty Hobbs is your guy. Let's hear more about the current real estate market from the man himself. So let's start with, how would you characterize the real estate market currently in both Missoula and Western Montana?
Well, currently in Missoula, we've seen a rise in inventory and buyer activity slow down a little bit. So it's turning more into a buyer's market, more than I've probably ever seen in the last 10 years or so.
So what does that mean, a buyer's market? How would you define that?
A buyer's market is really just means that there's more homes for sale than there are buyer demand. So buyers have choices, especially in negotiations.
And that means less leverage for somebody that's selling their house, more leverage for somebody that's tried to buy a house, correct?
Correct. More leverage for buyers.
Okay, so if you are a buyer and you hire you as your realtor, how do you go about then sort of taking advantage of that said advantage?
Well, right now you have the upper hand in negotiations, right? And first we start with a CMA and get a value and see where that price falls in, or where the value is for the buyers. And then there's other things that we can negotiate, such as like seller concessions to help buy down the interest rate or give you a temporary break or relief on an interest rate to help with that monthly payment. So
if people want to find out about that and other listings that you have, how do they find them?
Best way is just get a hold of me by phone, 406-544-9794.
Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective has partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more.
35-32, yeah.
35-32. They lost by 3, you know? So how does big game Brent Vegan show up? Because I think he's somebody who kind of hasn't necessarily shown up all the time in the big game. So I'm interested to see how he does from a coaching perspective. But I think the pressure has to be on Montana State. The number 2 seed, the Ball of the Wild Trophy, the Great Divide Trophy, the Big Sky Conference Championship. I mean, they're at home. They're going to have all their fans in there. They're doing all these things with the tickets to make sure Gears fans don't get in. They're doing everything. They're putting all the pressure on themselves. I think they need to win this game. But there is pressure on Coach Howe, for sure. I don't want to let that go unsaid.
I mean, if you're Montana and you lose this game, now Bobby Houck is 7-8 against the rivalry. Against the rival, that would be crazy. He will be 0-4 in Bozeman since his return, and will not have won a game in Bozeman since 2009. There's also then the real narrative that, I mean, he lost his first 2 trips to Bozeman, or the first time around too. So he would be what? Count him up, 2-6 in Bozeman, period, in his career. Those are numbers that loom large for sure in the rivalry. But I think if you look at the scope of the season, if you're Montana, you go to Bozeman and you lose, you say, man, bummer. But we lost twice all year long, and it was to the same team. We know exactly where the bar's at. We got to the Final Four of the playoffs and went 13-2 with 60 new guys on our roster. We got all these guys, at least hopefully, coming back. You know, great foundation to run this thing back. But then on the other hand, like you said, this might be the best opportunity that they've had to win a national championship because North Dakota State's not sitting on the other side of the bracket. And I think it's a pretty strong chance that the winner of Saturday's game is going to go to Nashville and blow the doors off of whoever they play. On the Montana State side of things, though, if you lose on Saturday, I think you look around and you say, what happened? We won 12 in a row. We won in Missoula. And then what? Had a lackluster win against Yale, had to fight to get out of it against Stephen F. Austin, and lose on our home field in the semis to our rival. I think that would be huge question marks about
the narrative will become, if they lose, the narrative will become that they peaked in Cat Grizz 1.0.
Right. And then there would be people piling on saying they put more priority to that game than into the playoffs. There'll be people saying, what the heck's going on in the locker room, given all the dust
coaching, Julius Davis, all that stuff.
Julius Davis situation. People will be saying, is Brent Vigen, is his head elsewhere?
Yeah.
Looking for other coaching jobs, et cetera, et cetera. How much has that impacted Montana State? I mean, I think that's an undertold factor. I think Montana State didn't look very good against Yale because their head coach was, in Corvallis, Oregon, or in Portland, Oregon, or wherever the heck he was talking with Oregon State. I'm not hating on Brett Vigen for that at all. You got an opportunity to go get a job that makes over $1 million a year. Every person on this earth is going to say, at least listen to the.
See what Jason Eck just got after a good season in Mexico.
Come on, man. Like, it's life-changing money. It's the man with a family. Like, there's no way everybody that's listening to this call, you're going to take the call and at least explore the opportunity. No question. But you just have to wonder how much it affects a team. It is the most impressive part of what North Dakota State has done. North Dakota State has gone on this run where they've won 10 national championships, and they've had coaches leave in the midst of those runs or announced they were going to leave in the midst of those runs 3 or maybe even 4 different times, haven't missed a beat. Every time there's been a coach that's on his way out the door, they still go and make the run and they finish it and they win it. If Montana State doesn't complete this, though, now you start to ask, because I think last year that was a distraction, not just with Vigen, but with everybody else that's getting hit up in the portal, getting the DMs, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden those guys are, boom, they're out the door the moment that the national championship game is over. But you can't tell me that a team that has been prepared every single game that they have played under their head coach showed up and sleptwalked through the first half of the national championship game, and it wasn't because of stuff that was off the field. It's not feasible to me. Like, Montana State no-showed the first 20 minutes of that game, and it had to have been stuff that was outside their control, because then they figured it out. They kind of slapped each other in the face and said, let's roll, let's figure this out. And then they played like they had played all year, and they made an awesome comeback, and they had a lot to be proud of in that situation. But so to me, it's the missed opportunity of a career that's in its twilight for Bobby Hauck, compared to mitigating distractions and the narrative that goes along with that. And in terms of whoever can win it, man, what a season, and what a gamble that has paid off. If you're Montana, if you go to Montana State and win, and then you go win the Natty, Bobby Hauck created a brand new formula on how to win a national championship.
What's that?
There's never been a team that's rolled with 60 new guys and brought in 30-something transfers in the offseason. Yeah. But also, the Grizz played the same style for 23 years under Coach Hauck, and then they played a totally new style. Like, for him to be able to lean into that, like we say, people don't change, and Coach Hauck ain't changing. He's not changing personality-wise, but for him to be like, all right, we're going to go win this by throwing for 4,000 yards and scoring 45 points a game, that would be, I mean,
philosophically,
put him in the College Football Hall of Fame, man. To be able to change your philosophy like that and go win a national championship like that, you're an all-time great. He already is at the Big Sky and FCS level, but that is all-time great college football level stuff. But then if you're Montana State, it's a culmination of all of this work, right? They've been building and building and building, and it's been this thing that's been going and going and going. If you could beat your rival and then go win the Natty, now it came to fruition. Like, all of your investment, all of your hard work, all the
days, the 16-year streak, everything.
Totally.
It's all made right in a game like this, in a year like this.
No doubt. Anything else to add on this matchup before we get you out of here?
Man, not really. I'm just super excited. There's a lot on the line this week. I mean, I will say this. We talk about this game is like, a lot of people calling this a national championship. A lot of people are saying this is leading to what's going to be a walkover in the national championship. Let me say this. No matter who wins this game, if you're going to win this game and don't win the national championship, that cannot happen.
Oh man, that's the worst case scenario for the state, right? Is that the winner of this game goes and then falls flat in the Natty? And here's the thing: I know everybody's thinking, "Oh, it's just the 12-seeded, unseeded Illinois State team wait on the other side of the 12."
They are very good.
They're very good, and also they already beat North Dakota State. So, like, you become the 1 seed if you beat NDSU and Fargo. Like, to me, I get it. Montana State are the favorites or whatever. Illinois State should be one of the favorites because they have already won in Fargo. They already slayed the dragon, man. So, yeah, I agree. You can't go have a letdown in Nashville because that would be such an infinitely disappointing ending to the season.
Yeah. So I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be exciting. I'm excited to see who really shows up and what it looks like. Cause I honestly feel like this game could go a lot of ways. I feel like it could be a dog fight where we see like 10-17, 10-13. I think it could be a shootout where we see Montana put up 30. We see Montana State put up 30. I think it could be a blowout Montana State's way where they win 30 to 10. They win 35-10. I think it could also be a blowout Montana's way where, Montana's offense is just absolutely rolling. And I think I lean towards saying we not see a Montana blowout but I think Montana is going to put up points. I think we're just at the point of the season where their offense is just playing. Montana State is going to have to answer, and that's the key.
I thought last game it was going to be a race to 30. Yeah. This week, I think it's a race to 40.
Yeah.
I think it's a race to 38. I know that's a non-round number, but I think it's a race to 38. I think both teams are probably going to score 4 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Who scores the rest after that, right? But I do think there's going to be a little bit more of a fast-paced nature to it just because of where we're at in the season. I think just because more guys are banged up. And also I just think that's just the way that Montana is coming into this game playing. I think that's going to push the pace for both sides.
One more thing we haven't mentioned that I would love to mention. Throughout this playoffs, Montana State has turned over the ball twice. They had 1 interception, 1 fumble. That's third of all the remaining teams. Montana has 0 turnovers so far in this playoffs. They've gained 3. Montana State has gained 5. 4 interceptions, 1 fumble. Turnovers are big in this game. I think that first turnover, if we see multiple turnovers, obviously it might cancel out, but that first turnover by either team is going to be big as well. That's going to be a big game breaker, just like it was in the Cat Grizz original game. Turnovers are huge.
Samuel Akem, Big Sky Breakdown. Sammy's not coming. He can't come hang with us. But that's because he got married last summer and he's got to go on his honeymoon. Like I told you, there's only a couple places in the world that's better than where we're going to be on Saturday, but you're going to be in one of them. So I don't feel bad for you. I feel actually very excited for you. So enjoy your trip. Thanks for doing this. It's good to see you this week.
Good to see you, brother.